Welcome back to the Alibaba Advanced Success Guide. And in this video, we are going to be talking about what a good product is for you to be able to source and then subsequently sell. Now, most new entrepreneurs at Alibaba start out losing money, and many end up leaving the platform or retailing altogether when they don't understand how to find a good product. Now, this is very important to get right when you're working with Alibaba, because if you don't think about this carefully, you can spend quite a lot of capital on your samples in order to get ready to sell. Now, here's an important understanding. The traditional thinking about niches does not apply. If you were to talk to very successful sellers over time who got involved in e-commerce and who started to use Alibaba and sourcing products to sell them in various marketplaces, they would tell you that there are really no profitable niches, only profitable products that are selling consistently. That means that you have got to develop an eye for a fast-selling product. A market is irrelevant outside of the individual products. Now, the goal for Alibaba sellers, especially those who are just getting started, should be to find single profitable products. And again, this really speaks to not looking for a profitable market or necessarily looking at trends of marketplaces, but understanding them in the general sense in the way that they would help you to find individual products. Therefore, you should be looking for a few basic things. First, you should be looking for products that are small and light enough to be easily picked up. And even in that case, you want to be mindful of what it costs to ship a product in and out. You also want to be mindful to what it could cost you in returns if the product goes bad. And of course, you want to be able to sell to your consumers, your customers, and this is regardless of what marketplace you're talking about, at a price point of between $10 and $150. Below $10 tends to mean that you aren't going to be able to make up for all of the shipping and the handling and all the other things that you've got to do in order to sell the product. And above $150 tends to mean that you're going to have a product that's going to be difficult to sell, and it's not going to move as fast because consumers are not necessarily going to be readily willing to spend more than $150 at one time. So these numbers really do take into account what your margins would be. And then on the high side, it also takes into account what your startup capital should allow you to do. So as you start thinking about how much startup capital you're going to need in order to get started with Alibaba, keep in mind these two numbers, 150 at the top and 10 on the bottom. Now, one of the things that you are going to want to develop when you start thinking about products is, can this product bring me a consistent flow of buyers? And that really means that you primarily aren't necessarily going to want, at least when you first get started, seasonal products. Seasonal products mean that they're probably going to sell during the fall, or they might sell during the summer, but they're not necessarily going to sell throughout the year. The best way to build an e-commerce business is to find products that are going to bring you a consistent flow of buyers. And what this does, of course, is it gives you cash flow all year long, cash flow that you're going to be able to use in order to build your business further, scale it, and grow it. Now, this also means that you don't want a product that's going to be time limited or faddish. So in other words, if it is a product that is really based on something that is happening right now and is not going to be happening a month from now or 2 months from now, you probably want to avoid e-commerce for that. In particular, there might be items that are developed for an event. There might be items that are developed for a specific period of time on the calendar. Now, while those products can be good, you don't want to build your e-commerce business around those products. You want to use those products perhaps to supplement what you're doing, but definitely don't build them as the basis for your e-commerce business. Of course, a good product means that your selling price is going to be twice your cost, and that's what you're going to be looking for. You want to try to get a minimum of 100% markup. And really and truly, if you cannot double the price, you probably want to avoid the product. And this really does get to understanding how to walk away from a product and not being too attached, which we'll talk about in a later video. Now, here are some things to avoid. You want to avoid things that are mechanical and that require warranties. And the reason is because there are lots of moving parts to these kind of products, and your customer will exercise their warranty if something goes bad, and they'll want then their money back. So you want to avoid those kinds of products. 2, you also want to avoid things that are sold at large retailers. And the reason is you're not going to be able to compete with those retailers. If they lower the price at any point in time, it could typically drive your sales from whatever it is down to zero in a matter of days or hours sometimes if a big retailer decides to run a big sale. So try to avoid those things that are being sold at large retailers. Try to avoid specifically fragile items, and that's really because it's going to cost you a lot of shipping, and it's going to cause you not only to spend money for extra shipping, but also lots of time to prepare the goods. So if you're going to get a consistent flow of buyers, try to avoid fragile items. Now, for other reasons, you definitely want to avoid trademarked items. And trademarked items give you an entirely different set of problems. You can end up being called by another manufacturer or by a brand and being asked to take your product down, and you don't want to get started selling your product. You don't want to get started bringing in customers and having them start to buy routinely, and then to have some brand come to you and say, hey, we want you to take this product down because it is an infringement against our trademark or copyright. So really try to avoid anything that could even come close to a trademarked item. Now, obviously, you're not going to use a trademarked item directly, but think about what could be, what possibly could be a problem in terms of a trademark. Try to avoid that issue altogether, because again, all it's going to do is really slow you down, as well as give you another something to do that is away from your building a profitable e-commerce business. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video.